Welcome to NextLabs Expert Q&A Series. This series was designed to inform you of relevant cybersecurity topics via expert knowledge.
Welcome to the 5th episode of the NextLabs Cybersecurity Expert Series. In this episode, our expert Charlie Singh will cover the importance of cybersecurity in today's S4 transformations. Charlie is the Director of Advisory for SAP Security and GRC at KPMG. Now, he will introduce himself before we move into the questions.
Hi, I'm Charlie Singh. I work as an Advisory Director at KPMG's SAP Security and GRC group. I have over 20 years of global security experience and compliance and been with KPMG for a year now. Specialize in multiple industries, but specifically in life sciences, utilities, and industrial.
Now let's move into the first question. The SAP landscape and security in SAP is very complex. How do you go about testing the subcomponents of SAP?
Firstly, you want to ensure as a company that you are following SAP's hardening guidelines. Often people, due to time constraint, money constraints, they don't necessarily follow the guidelines. So there are ABAP guidelines, Java guidelines, HANA guidelines that should absolutely be followed, which will actually make the testing worthwhile, because otherwise you go and test the subcomponents when the systems have not been hardened, specifically the subcomponents. And mature organizations actually implement automated vulnerability assessments periodically, which actually look at all these subcomponents within the SAP environment.
When should the topic of cybersecurity be introduced during the SAP implementation?
Well, ASAP. There's a saying out in the security world, right? Controls should be built in and not bolt on. So regardless of which conference are you attending or presenting at, you will see that. That's the message. And that's why it should be ASAP. Security is often overlooked, like I said, just due to time and budget constraints, and usually is often left out. And then people come around and say, oh, for security, do you have the roles designed? Do you have segregation of duties? And then they stop at that. And that should never be your full stop with security. You should ensure that you're looking at end-to-end. So from a holistic perspective, get involved ASAP, look at the controls, look at the security controls within the application, the database, the underlying infrastructure, the subcomponents, and also look at some vulnerability assessments. That is very crucial. You may have seen a number of SAP alerts actually come out. Believe it or not, in the last 7 years, I want to say there are 6 alerts from DHS, Department of Homeland Security, and that's why it should never be ignored. It should be included ASAP.
What are some of the well-known SAP misconfigurations you've seen on the market?
Well, actually, there are plenty of misconfigurations we have seen in the market, but specifically, if I had to select a few, I would say SAP Gateway setup. Definitely, we have seen a lot of issues there, plus the SAP message server. Like I said, these are security components that you have to ensure are configured day one, because you don't want to leave those gates open in the subcomponents of SAP. People usually just look at the top layer of what's your username, what's your access, do you have the right role, but then they literally forget the whole configuration underneath. So gateway message server would be the most important. And to add to that, ABAP coding, we've seen improper authorizations. So you may be the best coder in the world and have the best intentions, but if you don't have proper roles or authorizations, assigned to those coding, that can go wrong. And then, look at it from patch management perspective. I think the biggest thing we see out there is SAP will issue guidelines on, priority 1 patches and all. Not all companies are sitting around twiddling their thumbs going, yep, it's the second Tuesday of the month, let's get rolling with the patches. So due to that, lack of patching, a lot of other misconfigurations come into place, and that's a bad place to be in.
What are some key risks to consider during S4 HANA migrations or transformations?
Well, there are a lot of risks, but if I had to just pick a key risks, I would say ensure you understand the new functionality that S/4HANA comes with, right? And when you're migrating the data, make sure data masking is applied. Don't just look at head or trailer records. You need to understand who the data owners are. You need to get their approvals. Those kind of risk considerations have to be in place. And with S4, now we have the Fiori UI, that introduces a lot of security authorizations to maintain and to view data. So you want to make sure that you're looking into those new security authorizations and including that in your plan. Finally, with the new roles that are out there are a lot of admin roles that have been added. You want to make sure your SOD rule set is relooked. Why? Because those new authorizations and new roles will have to be included, and they will have to be SOD free. So I would say those are the top key risk considerations in my mind.
Thank you for watching this episode of NextLabs Cybersecurity Expert Series. Stay tuned for episode 6, where Bill Fisher will cover how proper authentication can prevent phishing.